Welcome back, everybody. Nice to see you all again. Finn and Lydia here as usual. And today we are super excited to have a special guest joining us on the podcast, Patricia Lohan, founder of Powerhouse Feng Shui. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm delighted to be here.
Yeah, we're delighted too. So we're just starting a new series and you are our second guest in this series called Fortune Telling. And so it's like you being told how to get your fortune, but not like lots of different ways around it. Yeah, I know, it's nice.
I love it.
So lots of people pointed me in the direction of your podcast, having spread the word that we were doing this, and this was kind of our topic. And I think it's like I listened into your podcast episodes and I was like, this is brilliant, it's perfect, she's really clear and she's right on all the topics that we're really interested in right now. And we obviously, there's so many subjects that we could talk into around feng shui, but we're going to try and stick to the ideas around money and abundance and how to call those things in a little bit today, because of the series that we're doing, but also because I think timing wise there are a lot of people who are struggling right now with these topics, especially post-COVID in the last 2 years. A lot of things have changed. A lot of people have found themselves in that weird liminal space between things where they're kind of asking, well, how can I still create abundance but not wear myself to the ground? Or how can I create abundance in a job that I'm in authorship of? So I think that this will be really nice to talk into. And like we said, we put a shout out on social media for if anyone had any questions, and we've had so many questions, so we won't be able to do all of them, but we'll do kind of pertinent ones. But I thought it might be a smart way to start, just in case people weren't clear, if you could just give us an overview of what feng shui is.
So feng shui is a 5,000-year-old practice, and it is essentially acupuncture for your home, or alchemy for your home, so that it supports you for a happy, healthy life. Like when you actually translate feng shui into, English from its characters, it means good health and good harvest. And harvest is what we harvest. It's our money. And actually, it's been very, very heavily associated with money from the Chinese perspective. And feng shui masters are called as basically engineers in China. When there's something going wrong in a business or a family, but they're around their finances, they don't call like their financial advisor. They call their feng shui expert to come and see what's going on in our house. When people and typically people ask me like, well, how do you know your house is bad feng shui? And I'm like, well, how's your life going? How's things with your finances? How's things with your health? How's things in your relationship? Because that's actually what the true reflection is. And I've been practicing and into feng shui since I was 15. And that was the start for me, was this deep connection with the fact that we spend so much time in our physical environment. It's a very dense energy, and unless we change our environment, we won't, we can do all the changes internally. And I'm sure a lot of the people that you're going to be talking to on the podcast about abundance and money, we're talking about mindset and investing in actions and your money blocks and clearing all of that from the past. Yes, amazing, exactly. But when you found and attracted the home that you're currently living in, it's a match to you, to your unconscious, to your energetics, to your frequency. And you haven't looked at changing and you do look at changing your energy around money and abundance, but you don't change your house, things don't change.
Yeah, it's where you spend all your time. And we always talk about it in terms of like physical cleanliness. We say like, you're spending 8 hours in your bedroom at night or whatever it is. Like that's the place where you want to invest all the time in terms of energy clearing, in terms of like detoxification, I suppose. So I guess it makes sense from an energy flow point of view as well. And how quickly, when people make the sorts of changes that we're going to get into talking about, how quickly do things start to shift? Like, is it 10, 15 years things? Is one of those things you go, oh yeah, well I did make that change 10 or 15 years back and now things are better? Or is it like, how?
It depends. I suppose one of the things is people think that, they come and they're like, Patricia, give me a tip for feng shui that's going to change my life. And I'm like, yeah, I can give you plenty of quick tips that will change the energy on the surface with your feng shui, and you will see shifts and improvements. But actually, one of the misconceptions about feng shui is that it is a DIY cookie cutter kind of do all the things and it's generic. And feng shui is actually acupuncture for your home, and the practice that I teach is from Eastern philosophy, and the idea that every house is unique. So it will be like asking an acupuncture, saying like, this is my issue, like where do I poke the needle? What needles are, it's like actually when we work with our clients, we actually give them bespoke reports for their house based on when it was built, based on its location, based on the size of it, based on the shape. Like it's a much more complex practice than most people actually think it is. So I'm here to kind of actually, demystify that and say, yes, on the surface, and we think that feng shui is a surface practice, but it is actually really energetic. So, you go to the acupuncturist, she doesn't give you fashion advice on what to wear.
Yeah.
she will give ideas, or he will give you, maybe supplements, and these are the right things to eat. And that's kind of where I work with on this level with people. I'm like, here's what you can do on the easy things you can do, but on a deeper level, it's about the energetics that's going on. It's the invisible energy. It's what you can't see is really what's having the direct impact on your bank account, your relationships, and your career and your health.
I'm sorry, just jumping. Is it like, so is the practice intuitive? So if people are like, if people aren't, let's say, versed in feng shui, is it the case, the way a lot of time we sleepwalk through our lives, like we sleepwalk through our jobs, through our personal relationships, through our homes, through our whatever it is, and it's only like one day after 12 years, like, and go like, actually, this side of the bed's really fucking sore. I'm going to change my mattress. I've been doing it for years.
Yeah.
Is it the sort of thing where you just have to wake up to it and it becomes like, does it become intuitive? You kind of start like, does it, or does the practice really need like depth of understanding and book knowledge? You know what I mean?
So actually it's not intuitive. So it's not like I walk into a house and go, this is what's wrong with your house. Like that's not actually it.
That is what I was like.
Yeah, it's not like that at all. It's actually, there's very complex calculations that we analyze a house based on a lot of different factors to say, well, actually the reason that you're having these financial issues is because of this, and this is how you fix it. And this is where I become an intermediary with people, is because most books get into a really complex thing, and I'm like, no, you actually don't have to do that. I'll just tell you what to do. I'll do all the calculations and I'll tell you what to do. And that's how we've been doing it, because a lot of people in my world will have come in and be like, I bought a book about feng shui, but I just tell me what to do, Patricia. Give me my report. What's wrong with my house? How do I fix it? So and like my whole role, I feel, in this is making sure that people actually realize that it's beyond the, where your bed goes. Like the position of your bed is not going to have a direct correlation with what's going on in your finances. And 99% of the time, the bed will only go in one place in your current house. You may have a second option. And if it is one of your optimum directions, amazing. But if it's not, it's not going to be life-threatening.
Okay, and that's something I was going to ask, because after listening to your podcast on money and abundance,
Lydia had literally booked the builders already. She was like, foundation's out.
I didn't, because I don't have the money to do that. Hence the podcast. But I was thinking, we did the house mapping from looking in some books and different things and mapping out. Me and my neighbor, Laura, we're in a street where all the houses are the same, essentially. And so we were figuring out like northeast means this, and where does that land, and where, and looking at different spaces where it was saying, in this area, you need to, this is where you might have your altar, or this is where you need to remove these kinds of things. And like some of them, like I think the one where it's like good to have an altar and to call in all stuff is like in my water closet, like in my, the room where the hot press is. Yeah. So you're like, that doesn't really work in our house. So are there some houses that you go to that you're like, actually, this is just a situation where it would be better to move house? Or can you always work within that house?
No, I've never told anyone to move house. We can always change the energetics. And something like, say, placing an altar, that's just an intentional thing. So you can put your altar wherever feels good for you. I have, like, so for example, with clients, we do work with like find your prosperity area. And what if it's the bathroom? Does it mean you've no money in your life? Like, no, it's not like that. And, the altar is something that you want to have an altar in your home, place it where it's going to be easy for you to access and to use. And that's very like the intentional layer of feng shui. And, a lot of focused people, like I literally just did a live earlier, and a woman was like, I've heard that just having one door is bad feng shui. I've just bought a new house. How can I change it? I was like, never mind that. Focus on everything else that you can do to feng shui your house. Like, don't blacklist your house saying it's bad feng shui because I've heard this one thing. Like, I really, and I think that's where there's a dangerous line with this, is because we can kind of just like write off our house because we've heard the stairs is in the wrong place. And I'm like, there's plenty of millionaires that I work with that their house, the front door faces their stairs, like plenty of them. It's okay, you know? So, and I think this is the really important thing, is that there's many, many layers to this practice that, you know, what we want to do is optimize your home. There's no perfect feng shui house. My house isn't perfect. My bedroom, in our bedroom in Ireland, the bed is not in the best location. Do I still have a great night's sleep? Yes, I do. But I know that the fundamental energetics of my home are off the Richter scale. They are so good. It is so harmonized. So all those little other things don't really matter.
So don't get caught in the tiny details.
Yeah.
So today you're going to give us some kind of little pointers, little tips, little things that people kind of can start off with. So if they haven't had a chance to book in with you, or maybe they don't have the finances right now, these are some little things that they can start to do to look at changing the energetics in their home.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, well, first of all, like the very first thing I would say to you is, you know, your home is a mirror of you. So if there's a resistance to allowing abundance, there's going to be resistance around your home. There's going to be places that there's like friction points. So I always start at the front door. I always recommend that you start at the front door and you stand outside your home and you think, is it easy to find? You know, I literally did a feng shui in a day consultation with a client and I couldn't find her house. I couldn't find it. I was like, if you can't find it, how is energy and chi going to get to your home? So is it easy to find?
Was that about like the painted color of the door? Was it like a long winding driveway? Was it like
it was on a side country road, and the sign was like this size, like this tiny little sign with the name. And I'm like, where's the road? Where do I go? You know, so like I couldn't find it. So, you know, and then the next step is like, when you do get to the house, like, do your spirits rise or fall? Like, is it easy to get into? Like the whole idea of feng shui, and if you just even bring it back to the acupuncture analogy, it is about flow. It's about ease and flow and movement. So you get on it. Just the first visual I'm getting is a house I did a consult on years ago, and I got to the front gate and the gate was all squeaky and it was just like, oh my God, I can't even get in here. Then we got up the hall, up along the drive, and it's all weeds. It's like untended to, not looked after. It's like not happy. The door was all cracked paint, and then it was just this jam. Like, and I remember saying to her, it was like, so are you having difficulty? Like, you know, just, what was it I said? It was just like this idea, like where the front door is like hard to open. It's like, are you struggling with things in your life? Because it's like, it's a struggle, it's hard. So where there's like tricky, difficult in energies. And the thing is, our unconscious, like we're walking in every day past that gate and it squeaks and the weeds are there and we're not seeing it. So the idea is taking out and starting like with a set of fresh eyes, looking at your home from a place of, this space is where it is literally have a direct impact on my own personal energy, on my bank account, on my relationships. Am I looking after it? And where is those little signs? Like it's talking to you, like the gate, the weeds, the front door not opening. So just like these little points, just moving around on the surface level, you could really start to feel a shift in your energy as you start to just tend to your house, like you would look after yourself.
Yeah. And if you have, say, like a million locks on your front door and an alarm system that makes you feel really safe when you're in there, but is ultimately really difficult to access and to get into, where does that sit on the energetic spectrum of like positive abundance invitation? Because you're not inviting in anything, you're keeping everything out.
And like even just those like, you know, and like even welcome mats. Like I'm just like, a welcome mat I got to once is like, welcome to the madhouse. And I'm like, what are you saying about your family? Like, what are you saying? Like, and literally it was a bit mad in there. So it's like, well, like welcome, like come on in. We want to welcome you in. Is your door like literally one I was like, there's cobwebs everywhere. And it's like stale. It's stale. And it's a bit stagnant. And it's just like, oh, we don't even want you. The number of locks on the door, I just don't, to be honest, I don't really overthink things like that. I'm like, you know, I'm more concerned with like, is the doorbell working? Are the light bulbs working? Like, is the light working? That can represent being burnt out, like exhaustion. So it's like every part of your home is mirroring that different part of your life. So when you get in to your home, do your spirits rise or fall? Do you feel good? Like, what's the first thing you see? Do you see, and you know, we're like, how does this relate to your abundance? But like, if you, the first thing you see is a big pile of shoes and it's completely overwhelming, like you're going to be like, oh my God, like I'm overwhelmed. I'm not even in my house. I'm feeling overwhelmed. This is meant to be my sanctuary.
Yeah.
Like, how am I going to, you know, it's like, how am I going to create abundance and call in abundance if it's all blocked up? You know, if the door doesn't open fully, you're not bringing it all in. If it's like all the coats and jackets behind the door, like all the winter coats, like we're in summer now. And I know it can be cold in Ireland, but you don't probably need the biggest jacket, could probably go into the wardrobe, you know? So it's like that opening, allowing, and then bringing the chi in. And as you come into the house, then you start to see, well, what's the first picture I see? So for example, in our home in Ireland, our front door opens into our prosperity area. Do people know it's my prosperity area? Does it look like my prosperity area? No. What do I have there? I have a beautiful painting that I commissioned. And when I saw this artist's work, I was like, oh my God, I love it. And I have a picture behind me that's like all trees, but this one is just this cherry blossom. It's on gold. It's like cherry blossom in full bloom. It just feels so abundant. It feels like I walk in and people come in and go, wow, you know, and that's what I want people to feel when they come into our home. They go, wow, this is beautiful. And that's really important, because you may find, and I remember a client being like, Patricia, my prosperity area is my toilet. And she was like unemployed at the time. And I was like, well, let's just like make it feel abundant, like make your home feel like, how can you upgrade little things? So in the bathroom, I was like, she got new fluffy towels, she got nice posh soap. She, you know, it wasn't like this big, oh my God, I have to gut the bathroom and change everything. It's not like that. It can be just like the subtle nuances, like of like, what are you making do within your home, and what can you like upgrade nice and easily, and make it just feel better. So in that area, for example, in our prosperity, I'm just thinking what else we have there. We have like some books that like I really love, a little vase. I don't think what else I have. Just like some
the first thing I think of when you say it though is a place I went to when I was in India. This amazing, like, you know, very rundown former palace thing. But as you walked in, there's this huge stone dish full of rose petals. And yeah, there's things, I think probably everybody has some like immediate visual reference for what they want to, like, to have as their own kind of sense of prosperity area. Often it has to do with flowers and petals, doesn't it? But like, and cherry blossom is one of those like ridiculously abundant things, like very short-lived, but when it's there, it's like you can't miss it. And everybody wants to be in contact with it. Everyone wants to take photos in front of it. Everybody wants to just like gaze up into it. So it makes a load of sense.
Yeah. So, and then from there, like for me, around your home, it's like from like from a prosperity aspect, like it's associated with water is one of the elements of prosperity, and represents that sense of flow. So, you know, if you have a leaking tap, just see every drip as 50 euros down the drain. Drip, 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 because it's not holding the container. It's like it's leaking. In the bathroom, we often associate it with abundance, because obviously there's a lot of exits in the bathroom. We've got the toilet, the sink, the shower, the bath, whatever. It's a lot of places where it can just escape. So we do recommend keeping the bathroom door closed, keeping the toilet seat down. Like, is it the end of the world? No, but it is just a small recommendation. And just even hygienically, it's good to keep the toilet door closed and the toilet seat down. But that idea of just like really important to just be mindful of like, how am I tending? And that is a kind of like, I'm keeping my money in, I'm keeping my prosperity in, I'm keeping the door closed. And as you then move around, the next thing I would say to you is looking around your home for anything that's broken, anything that's not working, you know, anything that's chipped. And you're like, how does this relate to my prosperity? Well, it's depleting your energy. So if it's depleting you, it's depleting that area of your life. So it may not be your prosperity area, it could be a health area, but if it's not working, it's creating that sense of like brokenness in that part. And it's also, you're just not in a place, you're like, I don't feel like worthy of having something that's good. So you're like having this, like, let me, like, and a lot of people have this, especially when it comes to abundance. It's about like knowing there's an infinite supply. So if you're holding on to something that's broken or not working, you're saying, I don't believe that there's more. I would prefer, and like I have feng shuied houses, like multi-million-dollar mansions to tiny studios in New York. And all the way in between. It's not about the aesthetics of the house. It's not about it being perfect, but it is about things being operational and working, and making sure that it's like, that making sure that there's that sense of just like kind of tending to it. So I think broken, I think not working is really important, and get rid of it. Like I'd prefer you to have, a picture on your wall, or have a blank wall rather than a picture on the wall that makes you feel like unhappy. So I'm thinking of like a woman's office once, and her office was set up like perfect feng shui for optimization. And I was like, tell me about that picture on the wall. And it was a winter scene. It was a winter scene, and it was like all snow, and if we just think about Samhain and winter, it's not the time of like growth. It's not a time of prosperity. This is her office. This is where she wants to be rich and abundant and call in all good things. And she says winter. And I was like, tell me about this picture. She's like, oh, that was my ex-husband's. And I was like, okay, so something that didn't work out. The winter scene. I was like, that has got to go. Like, so, and like,
it's like having a little coffin in the corner. I just like
literally, I'll just put that there to remind me of something that didn't work out. So like, we don't realize, but it is literally our unconscious is at play with everything that we have in our homes. So you want to be like, what part of me put this here? What part of me created this? So, Lydia, you spoke about, wanting to create an altar in a space. I wouldn't recommend having an altar in your bedroom, because you don't want any spiritual beings or anyone watching you when you're in bed. Just disrespectful, basically. But you could put it in another little space in your home that would just feel good for you. And it doesn't matter about the specific area. I think there's a lot of like clinging to, this area has to be this. So, this area has to be this, and I have to have that in it. So for example, when we do feng shui, we use compass school flying stars. So we look at the prosperity area as the southeast part of your home. And then they're like, people ask me like, oh my God, but it's not a corner. It doesn't need to be a corner. It could just be part of a room. Could be part of your whole living room. It could be your bathroom. It's more about just recognizing the fact that there is a part of your home that is directly corresponding to your prosperity and abundance. And then being like, right, well, what's in it? Is it where I store like all this stuff from my old business that I'm not in anymore, or divorce files, or, I've seen it all, cushions that say really terrible things on them. Like, you do not believe what could be in that area. And you're like, okay, well, I'm just going to clear it out anyways. Like the first thing you could do is just clear it out. And especially when it comes to like, from a feng shui perspective, people ask me, they're like, oh, I can't do the feng shui because my house is full of clutter. And I'm like, just describe what the clutter is. And they're like, well, it's just not that tidy. And I'm like, tidy is not feng shui. That's nothing to do with feng shui. What we want to do is, like, if you're talking about the dishes on the counter from this morning's breakfast, or the clothes on the bed from yesterday that you haven't done, or the laundry basket, like ultimately, they're all going to get tackled. You're going to do the dishes, your beds are going to sort of, that's called life. So just minus life, that's all fine. Or the kids' playroom, and there's another one that people get really like, oh my God, but the kids' playroom. I'm like, are they playing with the toys? If they're not playing with those specific toys, get rid of them. But if it's like they are using them, that's fine. It's moving. It's more for me about the places, the cupboard that you're like, oh God, I can't look in that cupboard, or I haven't looked at that shelf for a while. That is where the stagnancy is created. And that's where I would invite people to release. And to really go into those little spaces and clear it out. And with that energy, you'll start to see like that kind of shift of like, oh wow, look, I just cleared that and I've moved that out.
Mm. And so tell me, there was something that you were saying about red string, and red string being put around maybe the outflow taps, like you were talking about. And we were, me and my neighbor were talking about this afterwards, and she was like, but ask her, where can I put the red string? Because in the modern houses, like all the pipes are inaccessible. They're always like put behind, sealed into these things. Yeah. So like, then where do you put the red string?
Just don't do it. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
I think this is one of the things that like we can really overthink and be like, oh my God, now my prosperity is wrong because I can't do the sink. Like, you know, that is definitely just a little like, for me, I just like love giving, people like doing little quirky fun things. Like I just did a feng shui person recently, and I had this thing, I was like, oh, I'll just do it because it's an extra thing. But I know that I've already feng shuied the house and put the remedies in and it's balanced. Like I know that. But then but I can also just add that little extra thing in. So it's not going to be a direct correlation. You know, it's like there's, you know, so I wouldn't, if you can't get to it, it means it's fine. Like, don't worry.
It's like the 80-20 rule with nutrition as well. Just eat 80% good and 20% you can do whatever. Don't even think about it.
Yeah. Exactly.
And so another thing that was coming up for people was this notion of you shouldn't have your back door facing your front door, or ideally that wouldn't happen. And in, say, my house, for example, the front door opens into the hallway. Then you have ahead of it the door to the kitchen, and at the other side of the kitchen is the doors to the back garden, right? So they're not quite a straight line, but they're like this. If one of the things that you were saying was, well, if there's a door between them, try and keep them closed. So that's fine in my house, but in my friend's house, she has little kids and they're just running around inside. And then there was the thing of, well, you could get a curtain, but again, with little kids, not very practical because they can pull it down. Is there anything you can do? I think you mentioned something about like not stopping the energy, but helping it to kind of flow better when you come in through the front door, like making a little space inside or plants or something like that.
You could do that. I think it depends on space. Like it really depends on space. Like in our house in Ireland, originally our front door came in and it went out straight to double doors, and I had like I was able to kind of create a little welcome table and set it up so that like when you came in you kind of had this little thing that stopped you. But a small house with a straight back door, you know, I would say mostly it will be less about the door facing the door. It'll be like, if it's glass, that back door is glass, I'd be more concerned about that. And if there are doors, like just close it when you can close it. Like the kids go to sleep early, like, so when the kids go to sleep, close it, you know, and not getting attached to the reason that your finances are wrong is because the door is facing the back, the front door is facing the back door. Again, it's this idea of the fact that like your house is your house, and the prosperity area could be like, it could be the house type, you know, it may not be nothing to do with the front door facing the back door. You could put plants on that back door, at that back door as well.
If you frost the glass, is that the same thing?
You could put frosted, or even just those, like a decal, like one of those kind of stickers. You can put those kind of stickers to frost that. But if it's glass, but if it was a solid door, it's definitely not as bad as a glass door. And if you do have doors in between, you could put just try and get one of those in an automatic closer.
And are there any particular powerful materials to use around the home? Let's say people are building a home. Any particularly powerful materials that help to like improves energy circulation or lock in abundance in the home, like brasses or woods or metal or stone, or the particular like materials that you like to work with because of their energetic properties from a feng shui point of view, or does that have a bearing?
So what we would do if someone was building a new house from scratch, we would actually just go to the very start and identify the best location for it on the site. You know, I'll give you access. I have a free mini course that goes through a lot of different aspects of feng shui and different house types. There are 4 different house types, and like if you have the flexibility, and this is where it kind of starts at the very beginning, you know, that lady's house, her front door facing her back door. If I was working with someone with a pen and paper and pencil, and I was able to like rub it out, I'd probably like, okay, can we move the door over a little bit so it's not facing the back door? But now it is that way, so it's just is like, and then it was like, well, what are the other things we can do, you know? And I think this is a really important thing to get in. It's like, if I'm starting with someone with pen and paper or just pencil, and I've got like an eraser, I can go, oh yeah, that's fine, I can just clear that out and change that little bit. That's where you have like the kind of free reign with it. And even that you don't. Like I still feng shui people's houses from that scratch part and locate it on the site to be like, okay, if it's here, it'd be good for people, good for money. 5 degrees in difference, it could build a house bad for people, bad for money. So when people come in and like, I'm looking to build a house, I'm like, oh my God, can we actually just check this and make sure but sometimes you don't have it. Like we had one client in Mullingar, we could not, like it had to be on this exact line because the council wanted on this line. We still be able to manage and mitigate and make it the best we can, but it's not it's like we're not trying to achieve a perfection. What we're trying to do is the best that you can with what we've got, and there's more flexibility when we're on a plan. But at the end, like 90% of the people that I work with, we're just working with their existing house, and how we can optimize it from there. And the materials. The materials you asked about, like when we're working with the 5 elements in the house, but typically natural materials, like that's the most, that's like the best that you want to go with, is as natural as possible. But yeah, so that would be with the materials.
Okay.
And so the overview, what I'm hearing you say is, if you're reading books or listening to podcasts and you're getting these kind of little spot tips, they're really nice and they're really fun, but ultimately it's not about the specifics and the nitty gritty of the thing having to be all these specific ways. So it's not a prescription or a science thing where you kind of go, you have to it's more about, if you've got a home that you're not working with from the beginning, it's more about like how you feel in that space and how you feel in each room and how can you make it the most beautiful and flowing feeling to you, rather than going through the book and going, well, this is my prosperity area, but it's in here. So now there's nothing I can do about that. So I just have to tie some red string. It's more like you've got to look at it with your fresh eyes and then think about what that stuff means to you, rather than the specific location in the house and the orientation.
So the specific location in the house matters when I'm doing a consultation for my clients, because I'm analyzing the exact energetics that are happening in that area, like invisible ones, and how to balance and neutralize them. But you can do any of the intentional things in any place that makes you feel good, if that makes sense. So there's a dance, and finding the prosperity area. You could totally find the prosperity area. And I often tell people, find it, make sure it's clear of clutter, make sure it's clean, make sure that you maybe have an image that feels good. Like if you love Goddess Lakshmi, bring Lakshmi in. If that resonates with you, if you love Fortuna, if you want to bring Ganesh in to remove obstacles, you totally can do that because it's your house. But it's like it's not going to be like the be all and end all of it. It's more of like an honoring, and even like a bowl of coins overflowing. I love recommending that. And that for me is just an intentional thing of having that sense of an activation and a reminder, like there's always more money. There's an infinite overflow, that we are adding things in very intentionally to support it. But when it comes to like the deeper level, when we work on creating people's personal report, those areas are vital, like absolutely crucial for me to know, and to know what's going on energetically and how to balance it. So yeah, there's a little dance with that. So it's not about like, and yes, definitely your house has to feel good for you on an intuitive level. But as I said, it's not like, for me, I'm not doing like tuning in. I'm just like analyzing and be like, how do I fix it?
Just wondering, does feng shui incorporate like energetics when it comes to electromagnetic frequency stuff, either around routers or around underground streams where diviners would often do? Like, is there any crossover between those disciplines?
So that's a great question. And basically, when we do the feng shui, we're looking at the bubble of the house itself, like literally the bubble of it itself. So it's like that, it's in the domain of that. And then I have trained in geomancy and divining and all shamanic work and energy healing and clearing EMFs. And I just love that practice. And we do introduce it to our clients and our community as well, because I think it's important for them to be aware of. But they don't really kind of cross over, if you know what I mean. Like they're not like, it's like the feng shui is one specific thing and the other land work is another thing. Doesn't mean that I don't introduce it and tell people about it, so if there's EMF levels, we'll douse and check for it, and we have someone in our team who does that work like full time to support people, because it is important to bring into consideration. And I always tell my clients, like, turn off your Wi-Fi at night. Don't have your phone beside your head. You want your bedroom to be a sanctuary. If you're not sleeping properly, how the hell are you going to get up and go to work and be creative and make money? Like, it's like there's a direct relationship between what's in your physical environment, how you're sleeping, how you're feeling, to what you're creating.
And so if people listening are like, okay, that's it. I just need to get her in and I need to get her to work on my house and sort it out. How does that process work? Is it like a series of consultations? Is it you come to the house one time? How does that look?
Yeah, so I I've just, that first time in 7 years, I did an in-person consultation this week in Wales. We do everything virtually. We've been traveling basically on our honeymoon for the last 6 years, between Bali, India, Slovenia, New York, Greece. So we've basically been traveling for the last 6 years.
Wow.
And I've been feng shuiing houses through our program Powerhouse. And actually it's been 100 times more like, I think that the thing is, when we dive into the journey with feng shui, you need to be it's part of a community and being part of other people doing it. So Lydia, you talked about having your neighbor, like when you insert something that you're part of a journey, because it's not like a one-off thing. You're not going to go and be like, I'm just going to do my feng shui. It's like, it's an evolution of you evolving with your home and changing with it. And when we place our, so people join our program, and it's a bit different from online courses. We create a customized report for your house. So when you create your personal report, create the personal report, and then you go off, like, you don't have to read books or figure it all out. It's like, this is what you need to do. They implement that, and then have our support to implement, and then support to adjust and address every room in their house. So it's like the photos of their bedroom, the living room, kitchen, and we have a community that's like shares their wins. Like, so we've had clients, and actually back to your question about like how immediate are people's results. Like, I've had clients who put their last remedy in and their son had a $70,000, like she put the remedy into her career area, and her son had a $70,000 scholarship. We've had people have lotto wins. We've had people people have had their mortgages cleared, and got out of debt. They've, like, you name it, we've seen it. And the results can be super fast for some people, or it can be ironically really fast for the husbands. So I'm just thinking of one of my clients, Deirdre. Her husband ended up getting like a new job, a new company car, and a pay rise, like this massive big pay rise. She did the feng shui, like 6 months later, she ended up with a new job. But he got all the stuff immediately because he probably had no attachment to what was going to happen. So it's like, we see like this unfolding, like it's basically, I think for me with this journey is like, as you've been working and evolving on your journey, it's like the clearer you are with what it is that you want, and the clearer you've been doing your own work and your own practices, the more your house is going to know what you want, and the quicker it is for it to happen. So I see it with people who've been doing their own journey and on their own personal development journey, that they get like results pretty quickly. And some of them can be literally like overnight, like, and then others, it can be just this like journey of like seeing things improving. Like, we have clients on our journey with us now for 5 and 6 years every year, and they're just growing their businesses, evolving, expanding, more success, more wins. And it's like, it's just beautiful because they're part of the journey of like their home supporting them, growing, expanding, and allowing it to support them. Because when your home is basically the foundation of everything. It is that foundation. And if you plant your seeds on a balanced, harmony, in a lovely fertile soil of intention into that, that's what it supports you. So it's like this, it's kind of that piece of the, manifesting jigsaw puzzle that is often overlooked. And when it's balanced and tapped in, and that's one of the things, you have to kind of bring it back. Like, it is about balancing this yin and yang energy, which is connecting to universal source energy. So when your home is aligned and connected to universal source energy and balanced, you become more aligned, and everything starts to flow.
Yeah. Have you ever seen a full housing estate built on feng shui principles? If they do, and have you seen?
Haven't.
Yeah. Just be really interesting.
I know.
Because you can imagine it would magnify the effects on a personal basis to a community basis. Yeah. That could be phenomenal.
I would love that. I've worked on schools. I've worked in on like small little tiny studios, people in mobile homes. We've done like massive big mansions, everything in between. But I think it will be super interesting, because then the thing is, if we were doing an estate, and say like a round estate, every single house it was in a circle would be completely different.
Yeah, that's what would be really interesting about it. Yeah.
And okay, so how do people find you? Where where's your website? What are your handles? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah, sure. So you could come to see me at patricialohan.com, or and that's where I have a guide for, more money tips. I also have a guide for feng shui in your office, but I also have my mini course, which is Feng Shui 101, and it's at freefengshuicourse.com. So freefengshuicourse.com. But you can come to follow me on Instagram. I do loads of reels of in my travels. I just love spotting bad feng shui and good feng shui and be like, this is good, this is bad, what do you think? And gets people thinking and taking action. So you can come over, and if you have any other questions, people could just send me a message. I'm happy to answer the questions. You said, Lydia, about my podcast, Powerhouse Feng Shui podcast. There's tons of episodes there about everything in feng shui.
Wow.
That's brilliant. Patricia, thank you so much. It's been so interesting. And so, yeah, it's just
so many things. We're in my office at the moment, and I'm thinking of the slightly dreary painting that I inherited by a very good artist, but really I'm not attached to it. It's going. I mean, it's going to go up in my attic or to somewhere else very
not the
tomorrow.
Attic. Not the attic. Not going to the
attics
attic.
are dangerous for storage. I was actually going to ask you that. Is it dangerous to shove stuff in the attic?
Yeah, because it's going to create more on your head, more tension on your head. The attic.
She's got a bad attic. I have a bad attic too. I really can't. Yeah, okay, that's interesting. So it has to go out of the house.
Yeah. Especially if you're feeling from stress, overwhelm, tension, headaches. That attic is coming down on you.
And what about if your garden is really overgrown and wild?
I feel like you're really nudging somebody, nudging someone and being mean. Obviously, feng shui is more inside your house, but it is important to tend to the external as well. For sure.
Tend to my garden for sure.
Yes.
I tend to my bees. I leave my bees.
Welcoming.
Yeah. Okay.
Easy to get into the front door.
With the table tennis table, to be specific. Got it. Okay, fine. Yeah. It's on the way. Tricia, thank you so much.
It's been so lovely to talk to you.
Really enlightening, and so many things that are firing off here. But there's going to be a bit of discussion, bit of debate, and some change.
I love it. That's what it's all about.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Just want to say thank you to our sponsors finally, Clear Light Saunas, for bringing red light into my life. And if you want to bring it to your life to help with inflammation, with immunity, with general energy, with sleep, all those things, come and talk to us and we will help you get a hefty discount from that. Invite the abundance of red light into your life. Also,
if you want to support our project, we now have a new eco-friendly, sustainable clothing line for people who like to wander. We have a small capsule collection of clothes that we have consciously created and sourced from the best possible sources, all organic, all natural for your skin, and all of the proceeds for that help us to keep this podcast going. So you can go to thewanderingintowellnessproject.com. You can see all of that, and you can also find all the rest of our podcast episodes there, and all of the other workshops and immersive events that we're doing coming up as well.
Absolutely. Stay tuned for more of the series. Okay. Fortune telling. Bye for now. Thank you very much, Patricia. Bye.